Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the fourth episode of Extra Time, the podcast where I'll be talking everything football for the next hour or so. This week we've got Sam on. Welcome. How are you, mate?
I'm not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Buzzing after the results midweek. But yeah, as a Chelsea fan, obviously it must feel like a long time ago that you last saw the Champions League sights at the Bridge. So obviously 6-0 win, what you expected really. But who do you think was your best player in that?
Yeah, buzzing about the fact that Champions League's returned to Stamford Bridge. 6-0 at home. It's really good. But obviously Roma and Atletico Madrid will be a lot harder tests to come, and if we make it through to the knockout stages, which I think we will, we'll come up against more difficult opponents. Standout player, probably Willian or Zappacosta.
I must admit, I'll give him credit. Unlike Harry Kane's goal last weekend, that was definitely a cross, Zappacosta's looked like he'd seen the keeper. What on earth the keeper was doing, I've got no idea.
Yeah, I think he even said in his interview after that he was looking for the cross, but they were taking so long to get there, so he just looked up and took a strike. So
yeah, well, when you see a keeper doing what the Karabakh keeper was doing, it's always worth a chance to hit it and hope, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, you had Pedro, who gave the ball away 3-4 times in 20 seconds and then went and banged one in.
Yeah, that was impressive.
You had Batshuayi, who seemed a little bit off, but somehow got 2 goals. Do you think there's still a chance for him in Chelsea's squad rotation, or do you think you should probably sell him and try and recuperate 28 of the £35 million you spent on him, and then try and buy a more proven backup striker?
I think he's obviously here now till January, and then I think Conte will reassess the situation in January. But for me, I think we need. I've not got much against Batshuayi. It's just when he's been given so many chances, and he hasn't taken them. And I feel if like Tammy Abraham, for example, was at Chelsea, he'd have at least taken one of the chances that Batshuayi's had to play and proven people wrong.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think he almost needs a Vincent Janssen-esque loan, but obviously maybe to a struggling Premier League team in January that need a get out of jail free card, so to speak, or maybe a foreign club at Bundesliga or something, and then buy a replacement like Spurs did with Llorente and Janssen, where they loaned Janssen out because the potential is there, but it's just not been shown enough. Likewise with Batshuayi, and then bring in a replacement.
I think it's similar to the Divock Origi. He's not going to get game time at Liverpool, so they loaned him out to Wolfsburg. So
yeah, fair enough. So obviously, I'll go through and I'll start match week, the Tuesday games first for the Champions League.
Yeah.
So we had United Basel, 3-0 United. No surprise there. Obviously, Pogba's supposed to be United's talisman, supposed to be their creative player. He goes off and they score.
Yeah.
Fantastic header by Fellaini. Obviously, United have got Benfica and CSKA and Moscow in their group. Do you think that should be a... Oh, wait, have they? Yeah, they have, Group A. Do you think that should be an easy win for United, or do you think CSKA Moscow could potentially cause them upsets? Because obviously they were 1-0 down to Benfica and then pulled it back to win 2-1, so...
United should see that through. I think Benfica need to step their game up. I don't think Basel were that bad, but right. I just think the squad that they've got, selling Dumbia to Sporting Lisbon, and Van Wolfswinkel, yeah, he's doing good in the league, but so too is Morata,
yeah,
and yet he gets left on the bench. So
to be fair, you are playing Arsenal at the weekend, so it's kind of expected.
yeah, it's good that we could rest 3 of our back 5 and Morata and still win 6-0.
Do you think then it is? Do you think Benfica will step their game up and go through, or do you think it's too early to say between them and probably CSKA Moscow?
I think it's too early to say who will go second place. I'm backing United for first though. It would be funny if they don't make it.
Yeah, it would be.
But their squad's too good. Benfica, they've got some talent in there. I rate Jonas. I think he's great striker. Seferovic, signed him from the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
And Zivkovic is a promising young talent. But
I know if you pronounce all these names, I do not know.
Yeah.
Should see me trying to. All right, fair enough.
So United and then one of Moscow or Benfica to go through.
Fair enough. Group B, we have Bayern Munich 3, Anderlecht 0. Anderlecht obviously got a red card. You'd expect that it's going to be Bayern PSG to fight for the top 2. Obviously, Celtic the fourth team in this group.
I think Celtic, in theory, should get 6 points from Anderlecht.
Right.
And if there's a possibility that they could upset someone somewhere, maybe they could sneak in somewhere. I mean, again, Bayern Munich, similar to Chelsea, they were able to rest Hummels and Boateng, naming them on the substitutes bench. So, I mean, they've got strength and depth now with the addition of Nicolas Schüller, who looks an absolute tank.
He should have had a goal in their game, actually. It was falsely given for offside.
Javi Martinez looks like he's back from injury.
Yeah.
And you got Kimmich as well. That I'm really impressed with Kimmich. I
must admit, his goal was fantastic. The way he rounded the keeper and then finished it was absolutely fantastic. On the topic of Bayern Munich, obviously there's been a lot of chatter about Lewandowski, people saying that he's outgrown Bayern and that he needs to move somewhere like the Bernabeu. Do you think that's all chatter, or do you think that actually maybe for both Bayern Munich, because obviously when he went for a free from Dortmund to Bayern, it was massive upset from Dortmund fans. But Lewandowski really seems to have, I don't know, he doesn't. When you hear about big strikers, you don't seem to hear a lot about him or a lot about Suarez anymore, as much as you used to, say, 2 years ago.
Yeah, Robert Lewandowski, for me, on his days, second to Luis Suarez in terms of strikers.
Yeah.
Outside of the Premier League, obviously in the Premier League, you've got Harry Kane, who's by far England's only hope of doing well at the World Cup. Let's be honest.
Well, yeah, if Lallana's injuries go, but Lallana's probably been the most performing player for England.
True.
Over the last few years. But I see where you come from that. Do you think then Lewandowski has outgrown Bayern Munich? And it's hard to say people would outgrow a team like
I wouldn't
Bayern
necessarily
Munich,
say he's outgrown Bayern Munich, but there was I don't know how concrete it was, but there was speculation that Chelsea were interested over the summer.
Yeah.
And maybe, whilst he may not have wanted to join Chelsea, maybe that interest is wanting him. Okay, maybe there are clubs that are still willing to give me a final pay package. I mean, he's only 29, I think.
28, 29.
28, yeah.
See,
so
and obviously he's
still got 7 years left in him.
Well, he's still without a Champions League trophy to his name, and I feel like that's something that when you get to the last 3 or 4 years of your career, that's something that realistically players should be looking at, going, okay. Obviously, there's a lot of people talk about Harry Kane and outgrowing Spurs, or not that Spurs are the nearly club at the moment. But if you look at like someone like Lewandowski, he's at Bayern Munich and he's still not won a Champions League trophy yet. So do you think that he has to make a move to potentially Real Madrid? They're the only team I can see without a clinical striker that he could maybe replace. I know last year when they came up against Real Madrid in the Champions League, Ronaldo and Bale said to Lewandowski he should join us at the Bernabeu, or speculation said that that's what had been said to him. So,
yeah, and I mean, Pep never won the Champions League at Bayern, and he said that he thinks that he can win it with City. I don't think he will, but maybe Lewandowski needs to leave and go somewhere else as well.
Right, fair enough. That'll be definitely interesting to see what happens with him upcoming. Next game in Group B was Celtic PSG. Now Celtic got battered. Big money move in Neymar. You had Cavani on the score sheet, Mbappe on loan.
Yeah, and one player's name that has gone under the radar in all the press. It's all been dominated by Neymar, Mbappe, Cavani. Adrian Rabiot dictated that midfield like he'd been playing in that team for about 20 years. He is one for the future.
Fair enough. I mean, I know obviously they've got Pastore, they've got Verratti, who was in a big link to Barcelona, and he said to PSG officials in the summer that if PSG weren't making the attempt to grow and try and become one of Europe's super giants, then he wanted to make a move away. And obviously it's now reverted that Barcelona have lost Neymar rather than gained Verratti. Do you think, obviously a lot of people were saying that now with the signing of Neymar, there's no excuses for PSG not winning the Champions League. Do you think that's the case, or do you think that it's still going to take more than just one season and spending hundreds of millions of pounds for PSG to be able to go to that next level? Because if you look last year, obviously they had a 4-0 lead against Barcelona and completely lost control. So
on paper, they've got probably one of the top 5 strongest squads in the Champions League. So in theory, they should be minimum, I'd say, is a semi-final.
Right, okay, fair enough.
And I think it'll be a massive disappointment if they don't make the semi-final, given the squad that they have.
Fair enough. I'm definitely interested to see how PSG do, because obviously in their group, it'll be interesting how they come up against the Bayern Munich team, a team that have solid, of players that have played with each other for years and years and years. And how a new, fresh-legged PSG team can cope against a Bayern Munich team, because a lot of people say games can be won on experience, so it'll be interesting to see if that's the case.
Yeah, and then you've got problems with referees. I mean, personally, Bayern Munich got done over last year with Vidal red card in the first leg against Real Madrid. He obviously missed a penalty as well.
Yeah.
So that's 2 cases, whereas if that changed, maybe we could have seen a different winner last year.
Fair enough then. So that I'm definitely interested to see how PSG do, and I think that I fully agree that without semi-finals, I think that that's a disappointment for them. Group C, obviously Chelsea, Karabakh was spoken about, but again, Chelsea just blitzed them. Would you have preferred to have seen an Atletico Madrid or a Roma at the Bridge for your first game, rather than a team that you were pretty much 98% to smash, really? Or do you think that it's a good game to work the players back into the Champions League, because some of your players have never played in the Champions League before? So
it's definitely provided an experience for players that have never played in the Champions League before. I mean, Zappacosta, I don't think he's ever played in the Champions League.
No,
and he probably
not at Torino.
9 out of 10 performance. But then a mix of, let's not forget, you got N'Golo Kante that won the league with Leicester.
Yeah.
They obviously qualified for the Champions League. He gave that up. So that was his first Champions League game.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that, actually. That was his first experience in Champions League.
So,
do you think that's more important than playing, say, one of the other bigger teams in your group, because it's led to the players having good foundations going into your next Champions League game?
Well, yeah, because we play Atletico away next.
Yeah.
After a tough game against Arsenal this weekend. But it's every game's tough. I mean, we could have bottled that Karabakh game like we bottled the Burnley game. We could have just flopped and we could have gone 10 men. I mean, Cahill was playing. He was lucky not to get sent off. I've seen all the reaction on Twitter.
Yeah.
And he came in 2-footed late on this Henrique guy, and he was struggling throughout the game with this injury. So if Cahill had got red carded,
it could potentially be a different game.
It would have changed the game again, and we'd have been having to chase it and chase it and chase it.
Fair enough. Do you think, on a question of Cahill, do you think he's becoming, I wouldn't say he is yet, but do you think he's becoming a liability for Chelsea?
He is a liability. There's no question about it. It's not the fact that he hasn't. He is the liability.
Right.
You if let's say you go the normal Chelsea team and take the team from last year and team from this year. You just replace Morata with Diego Costa with Morata, and you put in, let's say, Bakayoko for Fabregas and Moses or Zappacosta. You choose which one you prefer. You look at Cahill on the left. That is the weakness of Chelsea. You look at Rudiger, who Chelsea were chasing all last summer, and finally got him this summer. He's not put a foot out of place this season. So Cahill is a weakness in Chelsea's defence.
Right, fair enough. Do you think that Conte will slowly wheel him into playing cup games, or do you think there will become a point where he will be forced?
I think it'll be like Terry last year, where Terry realised he was getting old, he was getting slow, and he was sometimes bringing the team down.
Right. Can you see Cahill taking a move away from the bridge in the next season or so, or do you think that his heart being with Chelsea is going to stay at Chelsea? Because his experience and his leadership is fantastic, but again, he's just footballing ability and his defensive mindset or defensive composure.
He's on the verge of destroying his legacy that he's created at Chelsea. I mean, take nothing away from him. He's won absolutely everything you can win. Yeah. Every single club competition that you can win, he's won it with Chelsea. But he's turning into an Ivanovic, where Ivanovic has been was at one point one of the best right backs in the world. Cahill was probably top 10 centre backs in the Premier League at one point.
I definitely agree with that.
Now I think he'd struggle to make top 20.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Obviously, other game in your group, Roma Atletico Madrid, 0-0 draw, probably the best result for Chelsea. Who do you think is going to be the biggest threat between Atletico Madrid and Roma? Because both haven't particularly started well in their leagues, respectively. Obviously, Griezmann seems to have dropped down considerably since the Euros and all the rumours of him going to Manchester United and things like that. Do you think it's impossible to choose between who's going to be your biggest threat, or do you think that...
Yeah, no, it's definitely... I mean, you'd think that Atletico Madrid...
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I think personally would be your biggest threat.
They've got so far in recent years in the Champions League. They made finals, they've made semi-finals, quarter-finals. Roma have always struggled in the knockout stages. So, I think... I don't think Chelsea will have a problem theoretically against either team at Stamford Bridge.
Right.
I think Atletico Madrid's new stadium, it could be intimidating for Chelsea. I don't know. And Conte, he knows Italian football, but Roma could surprise us.
Okay. And speaking of Italian football, the next one is Group D, Barcelona-Juventus, 3-0 Barca, and Messi gets his first goal against Buffon. I feel bad for
two goals.
First two goals, yeah. I feel bad for Buffon. He's a captain and a player that I've always admired, always looked up to. I think he's fantastic. But I just feel for him because obviously last year it was a big chance for them. They lost against Barcelona 3-1 a few years back. They lost last year to Real Madrid. I feel like it's just not going to happen for him in terms of winning the Champions League and finishing
It's probably not. I look at Juventus this year. And having seen that performance against Barcelona, 3-0 win, I mean, yes, you can argue Juventus didn't have Chiellini. They didn't have Mandzukic, but there's only so much these players can bring to a team to make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. So...
And losing, I mean, you look at they played a back four against Juventus, De Sciglio, Barzagli, Benatia and Alexandro. You look at, they played 3 at the back last year with wing backs. They had Alves, Bonucci, Barzagli, Chiellini and Sandro. 3 of those in Bonucci, Chiellini and Dani Alves. 2 have been sold. Chiellini's injured.
Yeah, so they are considerably weaker than last year. Obviously, Buffon said at the end of the World Cup he wants to retire. So do you think that's it now, or do you think Juve can turn it around and potentially push for a Champions League title this year?
Well, they should get through the group. I mean, Sporting did fantastic against Olympiacos. Barcelona, in theory, will win the group. Juventus should come second. But you never know with football. I mean, Chelsea lost, 3-1 against Napoli?
Yeah.
When we won the Champions League, the year we won the Champions League, and then we turned it around. No one thought we would. They then said, you can't beat Barcelona. We beat them. They then said, we can't beat Barcelona again. We beat them in the second leg. No, we drew with them, sorry. And then they said, okay, Bayern's one step too far in the final, and we beat them.
So it's not out of the question for Juventus, but it's just going to be a upwards hill climb from here on because of the way they've started. And on the topic of Sporting Olympiacos, obviously Sporting were 3-0 up, and then they drew, and then Olympiacos pulled 2 back. I think
Olympiacos scored twice in the last 2 minutes. I saw that.
I think in terms of Sporting, I think their attacking prowess is fantastic. I think what they've got going forward is brilliant. The fact they kept hold of William Carvalho, I think, is quite massive as well. I think they're a shoo-in to finishing third and going down to the Europa League. But I wouldn't.
Yeah, I fully expect Sporting to go into the Europa League, and I think they'll do well there. Their defence is strong. I mean, they played Silva at left back, but I'm pretty sure they signed Coentrao. So wherever he is,
he's been missing for ages, hasn't he? So
strikers. I mean, Dumbia,
Jota Martins, and
he scored after 2 minutes. You got Gelson Martins on the right, but let's not forget the season that Bas Dost had last year, and he's been relegated to the bench. So Sporting Lisbon have goals in their team.
Yeah, it's going to be a case of doing a Liverpool and trying to blitz the attack quickly, get the game over and done with quickly, and then try and hold out defensively. And speaking of Liverpool, this moves me nicely on to Group E. This has worked really well, hasn't it? Liverpool versus Sevilla, 2-2. Obviously, Gomez got 2 yellow cards and then obviously resulting in a red card. For me, again, it shows Liverpool spent incorrectly in the transfer window. If they had that 75 million supposedly available to get Van Dijk, deadline day they should have gone out and tried to get Koulibaly, maybe even put a bid in for Umtiti. I feel like you could have seen them try and go for Marquinhos. I feel like Liverpool are gonna struggle both League and Champions League this year because of their defence. I can see them making it through the Champions League group, despite the Spartak Moscow and Maribor game being a draw. But I do think they are going to struggle.
Yeah, that group's interesting because they've all played one and they're all on 1 point with 0 goal difference for everyone. 2-2 draw for Liverpool, Sevilla. And so basically, it's like it's never been played. So round 2 fixtures will be really interesting to see how they do. I think Liverpool should get through that. But then their defence, Lovren is a liability. Klavan's not much better.
No.
Signing Salah, he looks good. Oxlade-Chamberlain, been told that he was going to play in centre mid. He finished the game at right back against Sevilla. So you just got to laugh at Oxlade-Chamberlain, to be honest.
Yeah, they're fair enough. I mean, that's a group, as you said, that go either way. I personally expect Sevilla to finish top. I think they've got an all-round better team. While Liverpool's attack's probably the best in their group. In fact, it most likely is the best in their group. I feel like their defence is not great at all. It's definitely interesting because if they drop points against the likes of a Spartak Moscow, then that will definitely put Liverpool into a different light in terms of going through in their group, I think.
Yeah.
Group F, Shakhtar Donetsk. Speaking of Napoli before, Shakhtar Donetsk won 2-1 against Napoli and Feyenoord lost 4-0 against City. I think the City game's the easiest one to talk about first. Absolutely blitz-finaled. They were phenomenal in Dutch League last year. But obviously City, it looks like their spending sprees is helping them at the moment. City, I think, probably going to finish top of their group. I don't think there's much competition. I'm surprised Napoli lost to Shakhtar, which I feel like opens up second place for their group.
Yeah, big time. I mean, Feyenoord had won 4 out of 4 games in the Eredivisie, so I don't think they were expecting such a walkover against City, but they just didn't show up. I mean, they got some great players, but City have got a better team. Feyenoord Napoli is the next game for them, and I think Napoli should win that, so that will put them up to 3 points. I mean, it just depends on what Shakhtar can do to City, because Shakhtar are a great team and they proved it by beating Napoli.
Yeah, definitely a good point there in terms of, because if Napoli were to go to if Napoli were to play against Feyenoord in their next game and weren't to pick up any points or were to only pick up a point, instantly that puts Napoli in massive questions as to whether they can actually qualify in second or not, or whether it's Europa League for them.
Yeah.
Next group, Group G, Leipzig 1, Monaco 1. Now I know this is one that you were hyping up and quite excited about. I think Leipzig are going to struggle in the next few years, because I feel like the conversation we were having about Lewandowski, the same rumours came out that week that Bayern want to build a core German side, as seen by the signings of likes of Schuler and whatever, and the fact they're trying to keep hold of Kimmich, who's a bright young German talent. If they were to lose Lewandowski to, say, a Real Madrid, do you think that if they slap 60, 70 million on Timo Werner, then Leipzig are going to lose him? Obviously, they're losing Naby Keita for 48 million on the 1st of July next year. So I feel like it could go downhill for Leipzig quite quickly.
Yeah, and it's interesting because of Red Bull Salzburg being the same sponsors. They nearly didn't get to play in the Champions League this year. There was UEFA ruling. I think Group G is a difficult one to predict because, okay, Porto lost 3-1 to Besiktas first game of the season. First game of the Champions League season. But that group, say Porto win the next game and one of Monaco Leipzig win the next game, that group can be blown wide open again. So it's a difficult one to predict. I think Besiktas will go through. Right. Monaco have had a really, really poor start to the season. I mean, to say they've been inconsistent is an understatement. Smashing Monaco 6-1, then losing to Nice 4-0 the following weekend, and drawing 1-1 with Leipzig. Yeah, I think Besiktas should see it through though. They've got a good team.
And then it all depends on what happens in the results of the other games, obviously. Do you think Monaco have been hard done by in terms of the Mbappe loan? Obviously, I know they've agreed to it.
What do you mean hard done by? Because I think that it was obvious that he was going to go. I don't think they were expecting it this season, and I wouldn't say they've been hard done by because I guess they could have just been a Southampton and just stood firm and reject all bids like they did for Van Dijk with Liverpool.
Right. Okay.
But I think the player pushed because the chance to play with Neymar.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough then. Group H. Now I'm going to talk about the Real Madrid first game first. Real Madrid versus Apoel Nicosia. I think that's how it's said. Probably butchered that completely. 3-0 Madrid. Obviously, nothing was expected. The biggest news for that game was why Asensio wasn't playing. What do you make of that? Obviously, he supposedly had an infected spot or something that he'd cut while he was shaving his legs, and that meant that he wasn't able to play. I mean, I don't know what the heck's gone on there, but it seems like a story that someone would make up as a joke.
He just needs to man up and get on with it, to be honest.
Fair enough. I mean, I can't imagine many people calling in sick to work because they've got an infected spot or something. And then,
exactly.
obviously Real Madrid are pretty much a shoo-in to finish top of their group. But the biggest shocker maybe for a lot of people and for myself, maybe not for myself included as much as I first thought at full time, but Tottenham 3, Dortmund 1. It's the first time in a very, very long time I've seen Tottenham play on the counter, out of possession, and play well. I know a lot of people...
I wouldn't say it's a shock, because I think that's giving discredit to Tottenham and how good Tottenham are. Tottenham are a very good team. They've got fantastic individuals. And yes, you can argue Dortmund were missing players, but take nothing away from Tottenham's performance. Kane scored twice. They absolutely blitzed Dortmund. Possession-wise, okay, maybe Dortmund controlled the game, but Tottenham hit them on the counter, and it's similar to what Chelsea did. They might lose possession, they may be the worst team, but Tottenham know how to counter, and they won the game. 3 points at the end of the day.
Does it go as a credit to Mauricio Pochettino in the fact that obviously he likes to play a possession-style football, he likes to be in control and dictate the play, but the fact that he's trained and developed the team within such a short amount of seasons to be able to play in a way that we've never really played before and play against a big team. If you look at the last time we played Dortmund in the Europa League, we were nowhere near their level. And the fact to then go out and give them a good solid game. You had Aurier, who looked absolutely phenomenal against Dortmund. You said it yourself when we watched the game that he just looked fantastic. He dictated the play down the right hand side. He looked confident, composed, and his celebration looked like he'd been part of the team for years. So I don't think my biggest worry was, is he going to settle down? Is he going to fit into the team well? And it seems like that's already happened just within 90 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And then obviously you had the absence of Dele Alli, who a lot of worry from Spurs fans and myself included that maybe with this whole talk that he's sacked his agent and he's looking at the same agent as Pogba, potentially talk of a move away. If he was to leave, do you think Tottenham now have the squad and the confidence to be able to bring in replacements and get them to adapt quickly and do well, and it not be as much of a noticeable issue? No discredit to Ali's ability, but do you think it's going to be as scary for Tottenham as people are making it out to be? Or do you think it is going to be a massive, massive loss to the point where we go from challenging for the league title to struggling to get top four?
It's definitely going to be a massive loss. I mean, the link-up play Ali has with Kane and Eriksen is one of the best. It was certainly one of the best partnerships or combinations in the league last year. And if you were to... I've not been impressed with Ali. His attitude this season seems to have gone down. His head's a bit down. Something behind the scenes is going on. It wouldn't surprise me if he leaves. I don't think he'll leave January. I think he'll leave next summer if he really wants to. Obviously, you've got the World Cup, so a couple of people will have their eyes on him.
He needs to play to get into that team, doesn't he, realistically? So,
yeah.
Obviously, the red card with Jan Vertonghen. Obviously, he already had a yellow card. Looking back at that replay now, I'm not quite sure. I mean, I'm glad it's only a one-game ban and it's only against Apoel, and hopefully we'll have a chance to see Juan Foyth play, because I've been really impressed by him from what I've seen of him in training so far. Do you think that was deserving of a second yellow card or not? Because for me, I don't think the contact on Goetze is enough and impeding enough. If you were to give that a yellow card, then Kane's outstrengthening of Sahin, you could argue, for Kane's second goal.
I think that Kane challenge was a foul.
Right.
Because if you give Vertonghen a yellow for that, then Kane surely got to get a yellow for what he did in the first half.
So would you agree that they both should be yellows or both shouldn't be?
Well, if you don't give Kane a yellow, then you can't give Vertonghen a yellow. But if you've given Vertonghen a yellow, it begs the question why Kane wasn't given in the first half. So it's a 50-50
thing. The referees, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to book Kane in the first half, if you're not going to book Kane in the first half for that, don't go and book Vertonghen so late in the game for a second yellow. Just have a word with him. And then if you do book Kane in the first half, then it's understandable why you would book Vertonghen in the second half.
I mean, the inconsistency of refereeing in that game was ridiculous. You had the build-up to Yarmolenko's goal, which no credit taken away from the finish. It was an absolutely phenomenal finish, but the build-up leading towards that goal, the fullback on the left-hand side when crossed in was offside. So, and then you've got obviously the Aubameyang goal that was given for offside, that wasn't offside. So you could argue then that that's evened itself out, but again, that's not the way it should be. It should be based on inaccurate decisions.
Yeah, but you got certain things. I mean, Chelsea, Leicester last weekend, Morata's header, how Maguire got away with that handball is shocking, to be honest.
Yeah.
For me, that was a Stonewall penalty.
There's a lot referees need to improve on in terms of both European football, club football within leagues, and then internationally. But I think that's something that realistically, if the FA want to step the game up, then the FA, UEFA need to sort that. Obviously, a lot of people, when they saw the groups, the big talking point of the Champions League group stage was the Tottenham group, because a lot of people were based on our performances against Dortmund last time we played them, and Dortmund's current position in the Bundesliga, and said, you know what, Spurs are completely out of that, back to Europa League, etc. Do you think now that Spurs, assuming that Spurs are to get 6 points against Apoel, that puts Spurs on 9 points? They only need, I believe it is, 1 point after this, because they beat Dortmund, and Dortmund are the team they should be battling second for. They'll only need 1 point to guarantee second place. Do you think now
but then
it has taken the odds?
It depends on how Spurs would play at Dortmund, because Dortmund's stadium, when the fans get going, the yellow wall and everything,
yeah,
they could, if the consistency of the referee's decisions change, if certain things, I think, let's be realistic, both Dortmund and Tottenham will get 6 points against Apoel.
Yeah.
Then you bring in the factor of Real Madrid. I think Tottenham are more likely to upset Real Madrid than Dortmund.
Right.
But then again, I can see Real Madrid walking over both Tottenham and Dortmund in both games. And then it comes down to the Tottenham-Dortmund game. You needing the 1 point, them needing the 3. And then...
Do you think he's given us a massive advantage playing them first and having those 3 points concrete? So we know that, providing we've got 6 points against Apoel, we can go to Dortmund and know that, excluding a massive battering, we're going to go through?
Yeah.
Or do you think that could lead to the lack of concentration and the being relaxed and the...
Well, let's hope you don't get complacent and relaxed, because then Europa League's calling for you and you're joining your North London rivals in Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. They're quite comedic after yesterday's instance. But yeah, I definitely think now we've got the advantage. Obviously, Jan Vertonghen being red carded is not going to help things, but I think Poch has brought Jan Foyth in because he thinks he's able to do a job, and he's closer to first team football, if not already at that level, in comparison to the likes of Cameron Carter-Vickers, who we sent out on loan. Congratulations to him, but even though he won't see this, for scoring on his debut for Sheffield United. But I think Spurs are definitely a considerably stronger team than last year. I mean, Llorente, fantastic addition. Aurier seems like a fantastic addition and an upgrade. Davinson Sanchez looks like he's been playing between Jan Vertonghen and Alderweireld for a while. Obviously, Foyth we're yet to see in first team football. And then you've got, and no credit to him, but Ben Davies the last 6 months feels like a new signing.
Yeah, Davis has been good, yeah.
So I definitely think that the Champions League now is definitely had an interesting first week. And if we look at next week's fixtures, you've got Liverpool, key ones, you've got Liverpool, Spartak Moscow, who, if Liverpool don't pick up 3 points there, and Sevilla to win against Marble, which you'd expect, then it could completely completely blow that group up. You've got Napoli Feyenoord, who, again, if Napoli don't pick up 3 points, that's going to be potentially going to give them a massive mountain to climb in terms of trying to get through to second. Monaco Porto, which we've spoken about, which Monaco, realistically, if they want to go through, they need to be getting 3 points in that game and hoping that Besiktas are to beat Leipzig. Dortmund Madrid is up Borussia Park. If Real Madrid are to pick three, if Dortmund are to say beat Real Madrid at Borussia Park, do you think then that that's potentially left it open for Tottenham to climb into first in that group, or do you still think Real Madrid are too strong and that they will, regardless of say losing to a Dortmund, they are going to push through and finish first?
I think I'd be amazed if Real Madrid don't win the league, win the group. Sorry.
All right, fair enough. Karabakh versus Roma. Obviously, a massive game for Chelsea in terms of if Karabakh are to get something against Roma, then obviously that helps that group. How come are you not playing your Champions League group stage next week?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not on here. Oh, there you are. It's because it's split on the thing that I'm looking at. It's split Group C for some reason. I don't know why. It's the only group that's done it.
Yeah.
CSKA Moscow United away in Russia. Obviously, not particularly nice place to travel to. But United should be picking up 3 points there, and then Benfica the same. They should be picking up 3 points against Basel. Anderlecht Celtic. Now this can be interesting because if Celtic, you've said about Celtic potentially picking up 6 points against Anderlecht. If they're to prove that, then obviously they need to get a result. Because obviously you've had a massive talk. You've had massive talk over the last few seasons with Brendan Rodgers saying that Celtic would potentially push for top 6, top 4 in the Premier League. So if they are to be able to prove that they are anywhere near that level, they need to be pushing to try and get through their Champions League group stage, which again I don't think is going to be possible. PSG versus Bayern Munich. Now this is a game I might watch. Because I think this could potentially give us a massive indicator as to how far PSG are going to go this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Atletico Madrid, Chelsea away. They've got a new stadium now, haven't they? Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
So that would be a nice away visit for Chelsea fans, definitely. Juventus Olympiacos. Juventus should be winning that, and again Sporting away at Barca away at Sporting. I mean, it's all going to depend on whether Barcelona are switched on or not. Because I think Sporting have got enough going forward to shock Barcelona. But it's all going to depend on how Barcelona play and whether they actually set up from the get-go or not. And then that's the end of that week's Champions League. For you then, based on the first week of Champions League football, who would be a player that would stand out for you most? If you were to pick maybe your top 3 standout performers from the first week of the Champions League, who would you say in terms of players or even teams?
I'd go with definitely. I'd go with Harry Kane as one.
Yeah.
I'd go with Rabiot from PSG. I think he was fantastic in the midfield. And then I'd go with Kante.
Fair enough. On the conversation of Harry Kane, actually, an interesting statistic came up the other day that in 2017, Harry Kane has scored, I think it's 28 goals, in 3 less appearances than Ronaldo. Now, does that? Obviously, on the face, it's just a statistic, and statistics can be manipulated and viewed from different ways. But does that show just how good he actually is? Obviously, he's been the first player to score in 3 consecutive Champions League games since Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, but then you've got Ronaldo that scored like 98 or 100 goals in less games than that. So
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what way you look at it. It's definitely an interesting statistic, though. Obviously, there's a lot to look forward to as a Spurs fan with the new stadium next year and so on and so forth. But that's the Champions League roundup for this week. I'm going to go on to, while we got 5 minutes, I'm going to go on to the Premier League and just give a brief overview of the Premier League fixtures to come. There's actually a game on tonight. Brighton versus Burton Hove Albion. Now, Bournemouth versus Brighton is what I said. Yeah, Bournemouth realistically need to pick up 3 points. Because they've had a piss poor start to the season.
yeah, they have. Yeah,
Do you think Bournemouth are in the scare of a relegation battle now, or do you think it's too early to say?
it's incredibly early to say.
Fair enough. What's your score prediction for Bournemouth Brighton? There you go.
Brighton 1, Bournemouth 1.
Interesting. Okay, first point for Brighton. Crystal Palace versus Southampton. Now, big controversy of this because obviously they sacked De Boer. For me, I think that was out of order. I think that if you want to bring a new manager in and implement a new play style, you have to give them a chance to do that, and 4 games isn't enough. Southampton have been pretty poor this season. Not particularly a fan of Roy Hodgson, mainly for the fact he stuck Harry Kane on corners in the Euros. But what do you make of the Palace game? Do you think they've got enough to beat Southampton, or do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game, but I'd go 2-1 Crystal Palace.
Okay, I think I'll go 2-1 Southampton for that. I just think with Palace's defensive record at the moment, I think that it's going to be a struggle for them to keep out the lights for Gabbiadini, who we're yet really to see start firing this season. Liverpool versus Burnley. Now, this fixture last year was interesting because it really exposed Liverpool's defence and their lack of attacking, lack of clinicalness on the attack. Obviously, Mane's suspended. Do you think Burnley can shop Liverpool again?
Well, Burnley. Look at Burnley. They've beaten Chelsea this year. They've got a point at Wembley.
Yeah.
So they've lost Andre Gray, but they've brought in Chris Wood, who's got 2 goals in 2 games. So
yeah, he's not even played a full 90 minutes yet, I don't think. So, okay. I think I'm going to go 1-1 for that game.
I'd probably go 2-0 Liverpool.
All right. Newcastle Stoke. Now, Joselu looks, considering how little Newcastle spent, is it Joselu, whichever one it is, looks like he's really hit the ground running with Newcastle. Lascelles looked phenomenal last year. He was one of their few hopes in terms of when they were trying to avoid relegation the season they were in the Premier League last. And he really took command and stepped up as a leader last week. But Stoke have stunned. Stoke have got 4 points out of 2 top 6 sides at the moment. Choupo-Moting looks to be firing. Hesse looks to be really, really good. So for me, I think 2-1 Stoke.
I'd say 2-0 Stoke.
Fair. I was going to go with that, but I just feel like Newcastle have got something from set pieces that are gonna sort of Stoke
But then
out.
you look at the height of the Stoke defence.
You've got Wimmer who's 6'2", Zuma who's 6'1", 6'2", so...
And then you've got Jeff Cameron, Shawcross, Martins, Indy.
Credit to Stoke in terms of their recruitment this year. I think it's been fantastic. And also wishing Rafa Benitez a speedy recovery from his operation. I hope all that's gone well and he makes a quick recovery. Watford, Manchester City. Now, Watford for me have been one of the most enjoyable teams to watch so far this season. I think what Marco Silva's done with Watford in such a short space of time is fantastic.
Yep, for sure.
But I just don't think they're going to have
played well
City.
in a 2-2 draw against Liverpool.
Yeah, they did. I mean, Watford haven't lost yet, I don't think.
No. It depends on what team City put out. Do they play Aguero and Jesus up front again? That's a partnership that looks to be developing probably back City for the win there. But then Watford haven't played Champions League, so City's players could be tired. So who knows?
I think I might go for a 2-2 on that. I think it's going to be quite a high-scoring game, but I think there'll be a few, I don't want to say immaturities, but they almost are within City's defence that will leak them goals. And Watford seem to be quite clinical in terms of going forward. They don't have as many chances as maybe a City would have in this sort of game, but they're definitely taking the chances.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about.
Next one is Huddersfield versus Leicester. Huddersfield, for me, again, like Watford, have really shocked me this season. They played without fear. I know they lost to West Ham. I didn't watch the game, so I don't know whether they were completely outclassed. I know you said it was quite enjoyable to watch that game in terms of from West Ham perspective. But for me, I think Huddersfield have definitely got everything there to stay up. I think the manager's fantastic. I think some of the recruitments they've made is brilliant. Obviously, you've got Leicester who signed Iheanacho, who I don't know whether he's recovered from his injury yet or how long he's going to be out for. They've signed Harry Maguire, who's a fantastic signing. Kept hold of Demarai Gray, which is massive. Mahrez, which is massive. But again, I think probably 1-1. I think Huddersfield will get something out of this game. I just don't think Leicester look like the Leicester of old anymore. Losing Drinkwater, losing Kante over the last 2 seasons. I think Leicester are really going to struggle. Although Vardy does look like he's back scoring goals again. So
yeah, I'd say 2-1 Leicester.
2-1 Leicester, okay. West Brom versus West Ham. Now, I know a lot of West Ham fans that aren't looking forward to this game because they don't particularly like West Brom. I think Pulis, up until last week, for me, had been flawless. They'd played the exact way he wanted to play. They'd been clinical on the break. They'd been fantastic defensively. And if you allow Pulis to sign a 6'4" centre back who's got some defensive ability, then you're always going to struggle. West Ham, do you think, obviously from a perspective of someone who watched the game against Huddersfield, do you think West Ham are now going to climb their way out, or do you think that's a one-off result and they are going to go back to really being under the cosh again and really struggling?
I can see West Brom winning this game, actually.
Right, okay. So I'd go for probably a 2-1 or 2-0 to West Brom. Do you think West Ham are in real trouble in terms of with the amount they've spent?
Yeah, I do, actually. Because you got West Ham that were pushing Europa League a couple of seasons back. So I think that West Brom will win and West Ham are in problems, big problems.
Alright, fair enough. And then the 5:30 kickoff, which I'm rather pissed off that it's another late one, and the fact that I'm even more annoyed that I've been offered tickets to go and watch it, but I don't have the money. Tottenham versus Swansea. I think we're after beating Dortmund midweek. I think Spurs' confidence is going to be sky high, and rightly so. I do think we'll have too much for Swansea. And for me, I can see probably a 2-3, maybe even 4-0. I wouldn't be surprised if Swansea were to sneak one through a Tammy Abraham, who looks like he's kicked the season off fantastically. Not necessarily in terms of his goal scoring, but in terms of the way he's playing and the confidence he's playing with. But I just don't think Swansea as a team are playing with the confidence we saw at the back end of last season.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go 3-1 Tottenham.
3-1 Tottenham. Okay. Chelsea versus Arsenal. Now, this was the game. It was actually at the Emirates last year, but this fixture last year was the game that took Chelsea from being a bit of an embarrassment to the title. Really, it was the beginning of an end of one period or one era for Chelsea and the start of their title run. For me, I see nothing but a Chelsea win. I think 3-0. For me, I don't think Arsenal have got anything that is really enough to suggest that actually they can't get anything. That Arsenal have got nothing, in my opinion, to suggest they can get anything from the game. They're not playing particularly with any confidence. They don't seem to be. You've got the likes of Özil's contract who runs out in the summer. Sanchez's contract that runs out in the summer. Cazorla's persistent injury that is a player they've clearly missed. Kolasinac is a good signing when he's played in the right position. Lacazette looks great, but I just don't think he's got enough service to be getting the amount of goals Arsenal need to be challenging the likes of Chelsea. And this is something that's really been made apparent in the last maybe 2 seasons, is that the rivalry between Chelsea and Arsenal is now less of a rivalry and more of a certain result, and that Tottenham versus Chelsea has become a rivalry that it wasn't as much so in terms of the two teams clashing in ability, whereas Arsenal kind of have dropped down that bracket now. Do you think Arsenal are on the complete downfall, or do you think 2 or 3 seasons and 2 or 3 more transfer windows and they'll pick it back up again and it'll be Champions League and then title races? Or do you think that...
No, I think Arsenal are Arsenal. I mean, they all the fans this season would have got dead excited about the fact that they were signing Lacazette. They finally thought, yes, this must be the summer that we've all been hoping for. We're going to get... We've got a good clinical striker in Lacazette.
Yeah, they've got a good clinical striker in Lacazette. So, do you think Arsenal run the risk of becoming... If say, Tottenham were to win the League Cup or the FA Cup, or potentially both this season, and push for another title challenge, do you think that maybe Spurs are one Premier League title away from overtaking Arsenal and pushing Arsenal down into that bracket that Spurs have been stuck in for the last few decades?
No, I disagree with that based on what Arsenal have won over the years. And okay, it's only a couple of FA Cups, but Arsenal, they've always been there or abouts. Whereas Tottenham, the last 2 seasons, they've got second and third, but I think they need to start winning titles before we can say, yeah.
But do you think Tottenham, if Arsenal are continuously on the downfall over the next few seasons, do you think that they run the risk of being overtaken by Spurs in a projected, say, 3 or 4 seasons' time? If Spurs are to continue improving on the rate that they are improving.
Let's see if Spurs do that first.
Okay, fair enough. And then the final fixture of the weekend, Manchester United versus Everton. I'm not sure when Rooney's court hearing is, as to whether he'll be available or not. But if he is available and if he does play, it'll be his first fixture back since returning to Everton. Everton coming off a in nice terms piss poor result of the week midweek. But then you've got United Champions League. Obviously, they've lost Pogba through injury, potentially out for a month with a hamstring, I believe it is.
Yeah, it was a hamstring.
Do you think that Everton can get anything from this game, or do you think it's just completely out of their way?
No, I've been really disappointed with Everton this season, so I think it could be a draw, but I'll back Manchester United.
Fair enough. I'd probably say a 2-0 to United, maybe 2-1, but I feel like Everton have done what Spurs did after we sold Bale, and they've gone and bought loads of players for overpriced amounts, that is then going to take 3 or 4 seasons to settle in, and they could potentially end up selling half the players in 2 or 3 seasons because they've not come out. I feel like the signings they've made are less of a risk than the ones Spurs made, considerably less of a risk. But again, I think they've only just caught up with where they should be, rather than say push themselves to the level of Champions League qualification.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think they need a few seasons in the Europa League to really start improving and getting that experience. So that's obviously the Champions League and the weekend's previews. Looking forward to the games at the weekend. I never thought I'd say I'd be looking forward to being back at Wembley, but it's the way life goes sometimes. But yeah, that'll be that. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll get you on again soon.
Yeah.
And then, as I always do, I wish all you teams the best of luck this weekend, whoever you support. And hopefully you'll all get the results you want. And definitely the Premier League and the Champions League next week are going to be the big ones to watch out for. But until then, I shall see you all next week.